We're easy to find. If they went on the internet, we're at www.lupusil.org. So we will welcome the financial support, but we also welcome any volunteer assistance that people are willing to provide, and we always have a need. I'll give you an example. I'll give you a couple examples.
Please.
We have a database system that we utilize, and it's a very good system, but sometimes it causes us some challenges. We have a small staff. We don't have a IT person on staff that when something goes wrong, we can just call them. But we do have a couple people with database consulting backgrounds that have volunteered, and we are permitted to call them. Not always able to catch them because they have full-time jobs doing other things, but when they can, they stop by. We have an individual who helps us with our computers. So it's those kinds of things that people can bring their skill sets to and be very helpful to the foundation.
You've mentioned Education and Awareness Act. Tell me a little bit about that, if you could.
Well, it was a bill that was put into place this year, passed by the governor, and it basically tries to make people in Illinois more aware that lupus is an issue. And we've had some advertising that started to take place here in the city. You may have seen some of the ads that might say, "Could I have lupus?" Is all part of that endeavor to make people more aware.
Is there any way to predict? You mentioned flare-up a few minutes ago. Is there any way to predict a flare-up by chance?
I'm not aware of any specific way to predict the flare, but I would say that you need to be aware of what's going on with your body. So, as I mentioned, my wife has lupus, and she's had lupus for 9 years, and she certainly has had flares, and those flares have put her in the hospital. But one of the things that I check, or that she checks every day, is her blood pressure and her temperature. Blood pressure and your temperature tells you a lot about what's going on in the body. We all know that medical society would say we would like to have blood pressure at 120/80 or something in that range, and we know what a temperature is. Well, if your temperature is over 100 and you have lupus, something's going on. You probably should go talk to your doctor. You may not be at a state where you're having a flare, but then you may be getting ready to have a flare. If your blood pressure is 170 or 180 over 90, you should probably go talk to your doctor. It is not something you should ignore under any circumstance, but you certainly should not ignore it if you already have been diagnosed with lupus. Now, is it a predictor? Is it a predictor that a flare is about to occur? I would say it may not be, but then again, it may be. So I certainly would say to someone, those are two things that they can look at that would be strong indicators that something's going on in their body, and they shouldn't fool around with it. When lupus strikes, it doesn't strike over long periods of time. If it's impacting your vital organs, it's not necessarily going to do that over a period of months. In cases that I know where people have had kidney failure, kidney failures happen overnight. I mean, one day you're okay, the next day you're not okay. Now, that's not to say you may not have had some indications of this ignored for a longer period of time. You may have, but you may not have. So I would also say, in addition to blood pressure and temperature, just pay attention to your body. Pay attention to how you feel. Do not minimize it. Do not ignore it. Have a conversation with your doctor. Just place a telephone call to your doctor and let them know how you're feeling, and they will give you some guidance as to whether they think you're okay or what medication you should take, or maybe adjust your medication, or they may just tell you to come into the hospital and let them take a look at you.
You mentioned your wife having lupus, and often the caregiver or those persons that are caring for those that are ill, if I may say, find it being stressful as well, and sometimes uncomfortable. Is that part of your awareness and education program at Lupus Foundation?
It is. We have support groups all throughout the city of Chicago, and these support groups are formed by people who have lupus, but also the family members of people who have lupus. Conversations need to be held around this disease, and people are learning all the time how to handle the disease. I spoke to a woman just the other day who is very aware of these autoimmune issues, not just lupus, but all the issues that are in that family, like rheumatoid arthritis. And it was amazing listening to how she has learned how to cope. Now, when I really think about it, she wasn't doing anything extraordinary, but she was doing things like going to bed earlier, eating proper food, making sure she exercised. And she told me the story that she had resisted some of these things for years and years and years. And the more she resisted, the worse she felt. And finally, she began to realize that she had to do these things if she wanted to live a happy, wholesome life. Those are the kind of stories that are shared during support group sessions that can be helpful to everybody. People can pick up bits and pieces of information that allow them to live a normal, healthy life.
You're so passionate about this, Charles. Would you repeat again for the audience the address and the phone number for the foundation? Because I'm sure that there are a number of people in the audience that might be familiar or know someone with this condition and was not aware of the foundation. I think it's very important, I would feel and believe, for the foundation to be known far more extensively than it is. Yeah. So if you don't mind, could you repeat that information again?
Sure. We're located at 740 North Rush Street, Suite 3300. We're between Superior and Chicago. Our telephone number is 312-542-0002, and the website is www.lupusil, for Lupus, Illinois.org. lupusil.org.
Is there anything that I can do to keep well, you've just mentioned that, but to keep people aware of the walks and the other interest and fundraising that you do? What can be done further?